Okay, it's live now.
Thank you, Tian. Good afternoon and welcome everyone to this webinar entitled Equitable, Sustainable Development and Climate Crisis, Where Are We At? And this webinar is jointly organized by Safe Rivers and Aliran. So Reclaim Our Nation People's Agenda was announced to the public on the 25th of April this year. The main sponsors are Aliran Kesadaran Negara, which is Aliran, Bakos Trust Sabah, Pergerakan Tenaga Akademik Malaysia, Gerak, Safe Rivers, Sarawak, Suara Rakyat Malaysia, Suaram, and Undi 18. And approximately 60 CSOs have signed on to this. So today's webinar is the last in the series of 5. If you have missed any of these webinars, you may watch it on Aliran Kesadaran Negara's YouTube channel. So the aim of the webinar today is twofold: to get voters to be more aware of the issues and to come out and vote, and to get politicians or political parties to be more aware of these issues and to include in their election manifesto. My name is Evelyn Teh, and I'm a researcher in the field of urban and climate policies. I'm also the executive director of ARA Research Organization and a committee member of Jaringan Ekologi dan Iklim. I will be your moderator for this webinar today, and please allow me to briefly introduce our panel speakers. First, we have Johnek Ajong Henry. He specializes in bamboo for community livelihood empowerment and building resilience. He has a Bachelor's of Science in Environmental Science from Bristol and Masters of Environmental Health. He's a retired environmental officer from the Ministry of Health, and he is a strong advocate of SDGs and is currently the interim chair of the SDG CSO Alliance Sarawak chapter. Secondly, we have Peter Kallang, who may need little introduction. He's a legendary Sarawakian activist and winner of the 2019 Psychology Prize, an award that recognizes the achievements of individuals protecting island environments. Peter is the chairman of Safe Rivers, a Sarawakian organization that supports and empowers rural communities to protect their land, rivers, and watersheds through capacity building, research, education, and advocacy. He was a leading Indigenous voice in the notorious campaign against the Baram Dam and now focuses on promoting Indigenous rights in Malaysia and beyond. And last but not least, of course, we have Shamila Ariffin, a senior researcher and media officer with Sahabat Alam Malaysia. Her work includes research and advocacy on forestry and land policies, law and governance that affects the indigenous customary land rights in Malaysia, and supporting the mobilization of indigenous communities impacted by logging, monoculture plantations, and large-scale dam building activities. Sabah Alam Malaysia was established in 1977 and operates from 2 offices, one in Penang and another in Marudi, Sarawak. Today's mode of webinar will be 2 rounds of questions where speakers has about 7 to 8 minutes to answer the question, and this will be followed by a general Q&A session with the audience. Without further ado, I think my first question for the panel speakers today is that whether you can tell us about your area of work and how it is linked with or ties in with sustainable development, and followed up with, can you also tell us about the challenges in your area of work and what have you seen or experienced throughout your journey? And I probably will go to Johnek first because he has a presentation to share with us, and then we'll move along with Peter and Shamila after this. Thank you. Johnek, the floor is yours.
I have problem. Can you upload the my presentation? I have problem with extracting it.
Sure, we'll get the technical assistance to address this.
Can we okay?
I suppose while we are waiting for the presentation to load, perhaps I could quickly, oh, I think it's there already. All right, great.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Please,
Okay.
Johnek.
Yeah. I will try and complete my presentation because my presentation will answer both the question in the presentation. So as you had asked that question, the areas of work where it ties to with SDG, and I tell my story in the presentation. Next slide, please. Okay, I just introduce myself. I have been working in bamboo, focusing in bamboo since 2006, and I have visited a lot of major bamboo nations, including China, India, and Indonesia for a study tour. Okay, next slide. Oop, wait. All right, we missed it. Okay, the third slide, please. Okay, while we wait, I had presented this slide to the National Bamboo Development Steering Committee and also the State Bamboo Development Steering Committee in Kuching before they developed the bamboo industry blueprint that was in 2014 and in Kuching in 2016. My main complaint and the reason why I promote bamboo is slide 3, please. Right? Because as we assess and look through the national development, particularly when we look into the NEP or the new economic policies, there's a lot of loophole and failure. Slide 3, please. There's a lot of failures, inadequacies, bringing us to what we are now, right? The dreams were very big, but we had failed, and we Sarawak remain the poorest in the nation. Why? Especially when we look into Sarawak, you know, the NEP was transformed or formed into the Sarawak Rural Transformation Program. It was under the Sarawak NEP, the new economic program or the new economic policy for Sarawak. That was in 2006, right? No, 2016. And you can refer that one to the actually the State Development Committee. Next slide. Okay. Right. But had we fulfilled the dream, had we achieved something? And now a lot of academic assessment had been carried out by various university, UPM, UITM, and UNIMAS. But actually, we had not impact our society. Next slide. Okay, Sarawak RTD or Sarawak Rural Transformation Development Program. We need renewal, right? RTD required mindset change in the conceptualization and approach and in managing change. It called for integration and coordination at the local, national, and international level, which are yet to be sensitive to local needs. Territorial distinctiveness and empowering local people in the decision making these are the major weaknesses in the implementation of NEP, right? The mechanism for planning, managing, and financing the rural transformation development program at the local level require a very drastic improvement. Research and planning need to be integrated to enable well-informed decision-making about the nature and the reality of changes, particularly at the grassroots. Next change. Next slide. Right? And the glaring weaknesses in all government programs, I have this to say. We lack humanizing everything that we do. We forget about the human factor, right? RTD required a shift in conceptual thinking. Entrepreneurship skill is the central force to rural economic growth and development. This acceptance requires certain enabling environment that largely depend on promoting policies, which itself depend on the concept framework about rural entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship skill must appropriate for the rural development context are those that bear in mind the skill needed to improve quality of life for the individual, families, and community to sustain healthy economy and environment. Described as the process of creating value by pulling together unique packages of resources to exploit the opportunity at the local, right? Sarawak Economic Transformation Program require community entrepreneurship development to succeed. There's a need to humanize the whole setup. Next slide. Okay. Why I say bamboo can humanize our Sarawak Rural Transformation Program or Sarawak Rural uh, Transformation Development. Why and how, right? Bamboo is well known a natural tool to encourage sustainability. If you know a little bit more about bamboo, it is integrated into many farming systems and excellent resources on which to build variety of income and employment generating opportunities, right? With its multiple uses and high value in the range of product aimed at national and international market, there's a great potential still untapped for value adding operation and many different entry points for development intervention which are accessible to and appropriate for the resource poor people in the rural areas. So how to do this? To do this well, improved understanding is required about the bamboo sector, about the people involved, and about the main problem that they face. Research is needed on economic policy, institution, and social aspect of bamboo sector, as well as the technical aspect that are involved. Next slide. Right? This is actually about community development and community mobilization and how bamboo can bridge the gap. Right? Uh, it is a long thing to explain about this, but you can revise and you can ask this question. Next slide. Right? Rural development is more than ever being linked to entrepreneurship. Institutions and individuals promoting rural development now are as they see entrepreneurship as the strategic development intervention tool that could accelerate rural development process. Entrepreneurship stands as a vehicle to improve the quality of life, particularly for the rural. And bringing together different capabilities and experience in the entrepreneurship development, everyone could enhance their capabilities, motivation, and determination to achieve the goal. Since national economies are more and more globalized and competition is intensified at an unprecedented rate, affecting not only industry but any economic activity, and not surprising, therefore, rural entrepreneurship is gaining its importance. Next slide. Right? To do this, we need to focus on the human. We need to culture the community to create the future. There are so many ways to do it. These are the pictures of several approaches that are undertaken in many different countries, particularly those rich resource countries like India, Indonesia, and China. And we can follow this example. The whole thing is actually to unleash people talent to tap into bamboo potential. Next slide.
Johnek, I think we lost your audio. Could you?
Whoa.
Yes, now we hear you. Thank you.
Okay. So to transform rural economy, we can use bamboo livelihood industry, and the way to do it is to improve the cooperative movement that is already existing in the rural areas. In current reality, cooperative society movement is the most appropriate to enable sustainable rural transformation development in comparison with regular commercial businesses. Cooperative has certain advantage and certain disadvantage. Its main strength is that it exists and operates for the benefit of its patron members. The advantage ties up the patron to the organization by making them full partners and help build and assure volumes of business favorable to efficient operation of the cooperative. Cooperative movement have the weaknesses of democratic organization. However, cooperative businesses show an unwillingness to pay to pay the needed to attract the mass of members that may lose interest in running an organization. That is the weakness of the cooperative. But here, in reality, cooperative still has a big untapped potential. Next slide. Right? What's the relationship bamboo to sustainable development goals? Bamboo, as researched by INVA, it can bring out minimum of six sustainable development goals into practice. Bamboo enriching the present and not compromising the future. Next slide. Right? What we need now is the political will. No need for me to read this. I think we all know the reality. We need to reset. Next slide, please. The last slide. Right? Bamboo has always influenced our culture and livelihood development. What we need now is the will to reset. We have been talking too much. Enough is enough. Election is coming soon, right? This is an advice to make the correct decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnek. Thank you, Johnek, for the very interesting and insightful presentation of how, like the way you answer how your work ties into sustainability, that is, through a very tangible project through the bamboo and the community. Perhaps we can move to ask the same questions to our other two panelists, which is about, your area of work and how it ties to sustainable development and including the challenges. May I quickly pass it to Peter, and then I'll ask Shamila to respond next. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Evelyn. Yeah, I think at the outset of the program, you have mentioned what we are doing. So I think just that is more or less in a nutshell what Sep Rivers is doing on the ground. In other words, what we are doing is Sep Rivers support and empower rural communities to protect the land, rivers, and watershed through capacity building, networking, research, education, and advocacy. So that is it in a nutshell. But of course, in this business, it is not as simple as that. You can put it in a very simple paragraph like that. But when you go to the ground, it involves a lot of other things as well. It involves different type of characters, different type of people who have different interests and all that. So we have been doing that since we have managed to stop the Baram Dam, and also trying to look at alternative energies, and we support a lot of this initiative with the help of other NGO, mainly from our friends in Sabah. This green empowerment, and also we got international support and all that. But our the gist or the main focus that we are having now in Sep Rivers is an area in the Ulu Baram, in Upper Baram, which is called the Upper Baram Forest Area, or for short UBFA. This is an area which is we are working together with the state government, that is the Forest Department, and then the ITTO, the International Tropical Timber Organization, and of course the ITTO has its members, and then the member countries who are coming in to support us financially to do that. This is a very interesting area It is about 283,500 hectares of land comprising of, within that area, we have about 28% of that area, which is still pristine forest. And then we also have 18 villages there. It was started by the Penan before in the 2010, but since then, because of the support of our or endorsement of the late Prime Minister, Chief Minister rather, Adnan Satem, we have included all the other communities there in that area and make the area bigger. So now it covers 18 villages, 18 villages comprising of the Penan, the Kenyah, the Klabit, and the Saban. But this area has been given out for logging since the 1980s. So there are 5 timber companies who are operating in the area. And still of them, some of them, the timber license is still, is still valid. And some of them also trying to go into and register as sustainable logging under MTCC. Yeah. But like what I said, this business has a lot of challenges. I will go into that, but the core area that is still intact is about 79,000 hectares of primary forest. And this is still intact, of course, because thanks to the Penan who has been fighting against logging since the 1980s. You know, then they were labeled as anti-government, you name it, you know, then a lot of them were arrested. And there was some people from outside as well, very famous Bruno Mensa, who got lost in the forest. Up to now, we don't know what happened to him, but he was hunted down by the government in those days because the government believed that he was anti-development and all these other things. So that is what, but he was supported by the Penan. So thanks to them, we still have this area which is still there intact. But still, of course, it is not free. Like what I said, the logging company out there trying to do what they can. And I'm really happy to see that now not only the Penan are fighting to protect the land, the rivers, and the forest, the other communities are coming in as well. And we have been working together with them in this area to help them to do community mapping. Now we map out and try to teach them how to use the GPS, use the compass, and then how to collect the data. And with that data, we put it into, we collect the data and use it on GIS and all that. So the Penan community, I'm really proud of them. They have done over the 15 years of work. They have more than 30 over maps, community maps. These are not the political maps. No, I mean, it's not a boundary map, but it shows the rivers, shows the different type of, what do you call these, plants and trees and all that there. And then beside that as well, we have been going out to do the socio-biological studies. We call it the Baram Heritage Survey. We went out there and taught the people how to use the instrument, how to use the GPS and the compass and all that. And then they collect the data and put it on the handphone that we have distributed out to them. This handphone have special apps so that they can collect, you know, this, because they walk in the forest on a transect every fortnight for the last 8 months. These are local people, village people, because they know the terrain, and beside that, they know the animals, they know the plants. They record all these things, and then we collect it. Or technician go down to the ground and collect it on the laptop, and we send it out to the universities. So we collaborate with the UNIMAS, University Malaysia of Sarawak, and the Berkeley University in California. So they have analyzed it. We just launched our analysis of the studies that was done. This study is very good because it not only identify all the different wildlife and mammals and things there, but it also gives skill to the indigenous people and provide them employment as well. Yeah. So you were asking your question, can you also tell us about the challenges in your area of work? I mentioned earlier on that about the challenges that we are facing with this logging company that is going on. A lot of this logging that it goes on, they don't do proper consultation. The people who are living on the land and then the indigenous people who are there, who have been there for, I don't know, thousands of years, living there, they have been using the land, because we all know that the indigenous people, they don't farm all the land. There's certain part of the area that they keep where they do foraging and all that. And that is what they call this Pulau Galau and all that. So that apparently is not recognized by the timber company. So they lock this area. So there are a lot of disputes and all that. And of course, these people exhausted all the measures that they should be taking, that is complaining to the company and bring it up to the authorities and all that, but they could not get any result. So they came to us and we tried to help them, and we got sued, of course, by the company. So we are facing a big lawsuit, 5 million ringgit lawsuit, because we are trying to defend the rights of the indigenous people. So another part is another challenge, of course. We don't only get challenge from outside. There are people who are inside the community who identify us as NGO. They label us as anti-government political entities, tools by the foreigners and all that. So we don't always get friends inside the community itself, although we are trying to help them. So that is something that is a challenge, and we're trying to support them in whatever way we can in the way that they understand. We try our best to do as much consultation as possible, do a lot of interaction with them. This is how we overcome those things. So what would you like to ask the political candidate? I think there are 17 SDGs target that is placed to us. If you look at it, if you ask me to pick 3, I would like to see industrial innovations and infrastructure in the rural area, which is far, far behind the rest of the country, In fact, I don't know, Sarawak is the richest in terms of resources and all these other things that we have. You name it, we have timber. We have been doing it since the 1980s, exporting timber. And then we have oils for more than 100 years, petroleum in Sarawak. And then we have gold. We have all sorts of things. And then we also have sand and all that they extract our sand. But we are very poor, especially the places where these commodities are being extracted. These are the very same place where they extract the timber, where they extract the sand, where did the mining and all that. They don't have infrastructure and they don't have any proper livelihood. But when the government want to come in, they come in and decide what to give them, and then they decide to give them rubber plantation without that people knowing what is it all about, and then bring them oil palm plantation and destroy the land. So this is a wrong way of doing things. This is bottom down thing, from top down. What we want to see is the people, the YB that work together with the people and listen to the people. Put your ears on the ground and listen to them, not only to the Ketua Kampung and the Pengulu and all this Temenggung and all that. These people, sometimes they are completely disconnected with the community. And beside that, with the type of guideline that is given in order to appoint this Ketua Kampung and village headman now, they are appointed politically. So they are completely disconnected with the community. So second thing is eradication of poverty in the rural area. The rural people are still depending a lot on the forest, on the rivers, and all the agriculture that they have. But when you go and destroy it, they don't have any fish anymore. They don't have any animal to hunt. They are deprived of protein. They're deprived of food and all that, you know. And then we like to see the decent work and economic growth in the rural area. We are not thinking about big mega project, you know. Build simple project that is at the grassroots level. Make them what they call the food independence. You know, try to encourage agriculture, small farming. What we are doing now in the Upper Barang Forest area, we are doing agroforestry. After a lot of consultation with the people on the ground in the villages, we have decided what type of crop to start with and all that. I wish that the government could do the same thing. Don't sit in your ivory tower in Kuching and Kuala Lumpur there and decide what the people on the ground want. So I think more or less that is what I can tell you at the moment, and then I'm open for questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. What an amazing sharing. Sorry. I like what you said about community engagement and how they are involved in mapping and how development should be, anchored on community in upgrades. And you have pointed out a very important issue about, extraction and the unequal wealth distribution that's been happening for far too long. I suppose we can also ask Shamila now about her line of work, her focus areas, and also what are the challenges that she faced. Perhaps is also, about the same and overlap, and she could tell us more about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn. And also thank you to the organizers for inviting us. My name is Shamila Ariffin and I'm from Sahabat Alam, Malaysia. So our area of work, SAM has 6 programs. One of them, they are like forest and agriculture, forest and biodiversity, climate change, planning and development, pollution and extractives, and also marine and fisheries. In Sarawak, where I help support the work in Sarawak, the main focus of the work is on indigenous customary land rights or native customary rights, otherwise known as NCR. And to the first question, like how is the work linked or ties into sustainable development? So it's rather very simple, because there is no sustainability without community. So in all the work that we do, and not just in Sarawak, for SAM, community, whether it's a fisher community or it's indigenous community or an urban community, their rights and their welfare become central, integral for sustainable development. You cannot have sustainable development without having community at its center. If you have profits at the center of sustainable development, it's not going to work. It's very, very simple. If you have greed at the center of trying to go somewhere, the vision for this country, it's not going to work. Is the community that have always been there and will continue to be there. And in whatever policies and advocacy or improvements that we like to do for a country, you must think about the welfare and the rights of community. So that's how it all ties down to that. The ties that bind all the work that we do at SAM, and I also believe the same for my other 2 presenters here today. And I think one of the main challenges in the area of work is exactly that. There is a lack of concern for community. It's very, very difficult sometimes for us to, let's say, to bring the narrative the narrative or the issues that communities such as indigenous communities face into like to bring it to light to national attention. For one, there is location and geography matter. There are many communities that are facing repression. They live away the center of attention. Like if something happens in Kuala Lumpur, I'm not saying that it's less important, yeah, something really bad, and then it's very quickly the whole country knows about it. But that's not the case with indigenous communities, not just in Sarawak, but also all over the country. And I can also say maybe in most places in the world, yeah. If a community is arrested, for example, but now maybe it's much better, but in the past, I mean, it may take several days before people fully know the full extent of what had happened, yeah? So that's one, the natural challenges. And also I believe it's these issues, environmental issues and also community rights issues, they're less visible or less not, sometimes it appears as if they're not very interesting for electoral politics. And because maybe communities are seen as not having very great power to in electoral politics or something like that. So and also for the media, I mean, you can see, for example, not just traditional media or social media, that sometimes the amount of attention devoted to things that don't really matter, devoted to things that, you know, like maybe someone's fighting with someone, there'll be like so much attention on that, but you just want to try to highlight like a particular issue, like a community member that has been unfairly arrested, for example, in defense of their territories. And you sometimes it's quite difficult to get these stories into national attention. So that also is like one of the main challenges that we face. Then there is also the question of solutions when, you know, there is a problem on sustainable logging or forest conversions or climate change. Then you will have a lot of discussion on the solutions being put forth by different parties, and often they're not the real solutions, they're false solutions, and they will dominate the narrative about how to solve them, but they're really not the solutions, and they would be making things worse. And because it's not very easy for us to get the attention and, you know, these issues, then therefore the public or even the people going for contesting as candidates, they themselves very limited knowledge on how do we go about trying to solve this problems that sometimes are being portrayed as so complex and in need of so much complex solutions, when actually is this a question of, it's a systemic question, it's a simple question that our organization is not just an environmental organization. We work fundamentally on justice, and justice is very simple. So then, but you know, you would have all these complicated solutions being pushed forth. This is how you do it. This is how you're supposed to manage logging. This is how you're supposed to address climate change. But they don't, you see. But and as trying to say that do not go that way, because it's not going to solve the problem. It's not really good for the communities. It can be quite difficult, because how do you counter very complex solutions when actually the solution is rather very simple, because the truth is simple, justice is simple. When you see solutions that are being, you know, talked about and they're so complex, and you don't know where the devils are because they're in the details, then, you know, like how can you just, how about like just not log the forest? How about that? How about just making it into law, the protection of community rights policies? They're quite simple. And then, but then no, you will have all kinds of solutions, but those. So I think these are like some of the big challenges that we face, in getting the message out there of how things really are, and not how as they appear in mainstream narrative, I think.
Thank you, Shamila. I really resonate with what you just said about how environmental issues are fundamentally centered and anchored on justice, and without rights and well-being of the community in the discussion of sustainability, there isn't really a discussion even, right? A lot of people who are jumping on the bandwagon of sustainability are essentially still centered on profit, because that's something that they would not compromise. But again, I think such discussion that we have today is to challenge that mainstream narrative of how growth should be like, which needs to be rethink through, especially in the climate crisis that we're facing today. Even as we speak, several areas around the world are already flooding, and I read that there is a typhoon in Philippines, Mindanao area as well. So it is intensifying, and solutions need to scale up a lot faster. But then again, as Shamila said, false solutions are abundant as well. And keeping it simple to the core value, I think, is what we can segue back to Johnek, where he, share with us about how something like renewable, like the bamboo, and getting the community involved could be one of the incremental solutions that will pave ways to more, other imaginations of how people can gain power and build their own economic capacity and autonomy back again. And that all works into the whole equitable and sustainable development, wealth redistribution, and all that. So maybe I could go back to Johnek and ask him a question on what are the 3 priorities, in your opinion, on sustainable development that you would like the election candidates to commit to? Johnek, you're muted.
Okay. I put on the slide of the 3. The first and most important thing is you need to respect the people. Treat community as human. Do not treat them as commodity or one of the assets in the nation building. People are separated from the orangutan, from the assets or the other resources like our timber and everything. It is true in capitalist system, the community is one of the assets, human assets. But in sociology or in socio-economy, people should be separated. You need to learn how to be humane and respect people with humanity. That's the first thing. A lot of us, including you and me, we look at people, we tend to commoditize them. Okay. The second issue is we have too much, enough is enough of top down. Listen to the people. They are the expert on the ground. Don't think that they are stupid. They know a lot. They have maintained the natural resources for millennium, while Malaysia is only alive 6 decades. And they have done so well. And in 6 decades, the government has destroyed this nation and sinking our ship. Are you saying that people in the community, in the rural areas, they are stupid? Actually, now we are the intellectual. We are the one who's stupid. Okay, the third one is, right? Like I say, respect. You need to learn how to be human. If you want to become a hero, the first thing is you need to be humble. That's the 3 most important things that we all, the Malaysian population now, including you and me, we lack. This basic thing, we need to put it back before you can discover the others. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnek. And thanks for ending by saying, there needs to be a respect of people, regardless of their background and walk of life, and especially the local indigenous people. They like you said, they have millenniums of, institutional knowledge, so to speak, right, from their forefathers and ancestors, and they have been the guardians of forests and other natural environments around the world, and they have been known for being the go-to community in terms of how to protect the forest. And having said that, I guess it goes back to what Peter said earlier. There is lack of consultations when there are projects that's happening. It's as if that there's a total disregard of the people who have been there for so long, and people just start coming in and impose a different norm of development. Perhaps Peter, would you like to state also your priorities for sustainable development for any election candidates who are listening?
Yeah, thank you, Evelyn. While Johnek is talking there, something came into my mind because besides being chairman of SAP Rivers, I'm also the chairman of ICCA for Southeast Asia, the global organization comprising about 192 over countries worldwide of indigenous communities. So what we do is we're trying to support the indigenous communities in the conservation of their, what we call the area where they live. That is what we are doing. Because it is proven globally, the 80% of the conserved area globally falls into the ICCA, the Indigenous Community Conservation Area. In other words, what the indigenous people are doing in the method of agriculture and sustainable livelihood is something that is contributing to conservation of the biodiversity. And you're talking about climate change now, you're talking about natural carbon, what do you call this, conservation, I don't remember the term, but anyway, this is what the indigenous people are contributing. That's why they call it, because worldwide, there are conservation going on now because of this, trying to prevent this greenhouse gas and all that. Another term that they use is OECM, other effective conservation measures. So these indigenous people, the way they're doing farming, I was mentioning earlier on about agroforestry. Agroforestry sounds very modern and all that. Actually, we in Malaysia, I believe that orang asli is in what you call in Semenanjung, and the same thing with our friends in the Sabahan in Sabah and our Widaya in Sarawak. This is something we have been doing, because you're talking about monoculture and all that. Monoculture, it will destroy all the biodiversity there. And also when you come in to do a oil palm plantation, you bulldoze all the topsoil and all these things in order to plant your oil palm. It causes a lot of erosions and all this other thing there. And beside that, it destroy the environment. So, but we have been doing this, because I grew up in the village. So I know what to live is. I was tapping rubber when I was young to pay for my school fees. I joined my parents to plant paddy. I planted paddy from the very planting until the harvesting. I've experienced that. So a lot of the people, indigenous people, that include our Dayak people. Dayak, by the way, a lot of people in Semenanjung, they keep on saying Kedazan, Iban. Iban are not the only Dayak. When you talk about Sarawak, the Dayak comprises of the Iban, which is the majority, and then the Bidayu, and then the Orang Ulu. Okay, so when you say Iban, Kedazan, you automatically omit the Bidayu and the Orang Ulu. Okay, correction there. Anyway, this is a practice that we have been doing. We are doing agroforestry, but we did not have the name for it. This is a natural way that we're doing in order to contribute to sustainable development, in order to contribute to stop climate change and all that. That is what we are doing, So we are doing the very thing that you should be doing. That's why the government should not decide, what is good, because these people are, I don't know what they're living in, like what I said, they're in the ivory tower there. They don't know what is going on the ground. So that is what I put there. I think my colleague will add more to that.
Thank you, Peter. And I agree with you that, sometimes things that has been going on for many years, hundreds, even centuries, but they weren't just like given a label until it gets popularized and you call it agroforestry. It sounds very high tech, but actually it's something that's been practiced by indigenous for so many generations. So there's also the issue of commercialization of local solutions and also to commodify, like someone said earlier, about people and assets and natural assets especially. Perhaps I can go to Shamila to hear about what her 3 priorities in sustainable development would be.
For elections candidates.
That's right.
Well, the first is for them to educate themselves. Number 2 is for them to educate themselves. And number 3 is for them to educate themselves. Now, the question is, educate on what? Given the scenario that we are facing right now, I would say, number 1, to educate themselves about climate change, the crisis, and biodiversity protection and community rights. And then the second thing, which is also of great concern to me that I've seen, I think lawmakers need to have ample knowledge from the local level to the international level. For example, like what do they know about the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change or Convention on Biological Diversity? There are decisions being taken at the international level that really impact at the national and local levels and community rights. And if you have no inkling about what's going on in the international scene on how things are planned, then you will have narrative like, oh, only in Malaysia, this weird thing will happen. No, it's not. It's all over the world. You must have an internationalist perspective about how to protect the interests of your country and of the people. So that is something that I'm also concerned about, having a large spectrum of perspective from the local grassroots level to the national level, policy and reforms, to where our country is at a host of international negotiations and conventions, not just on the environment. And then the third is beyond that, about how to educate yourself on how, for example, to stand your ground if your party leadership makes decisions that are detrimental to the environment and ecosystems and communities. And I think beyond putting this question, Evelyn, on the election candidates, I also think largely like, how do we put it to the political parties themselves? They may know how to win an election, right? I mean, I'm sure they have trainings on all this kind of thing, but do they train their members in policy and law issues? Do they train their members about, like what do we need more in our laws and policies to protect the rights of communities on climate change? And also how you select your candidates to matter. I mean, sometimes you have dreams about, an outstanding person, a human being, a compassionate, who's knowledgeable, but then if the party doesn't select him, if you have like one of the best performing, let's say, member of parliament in the last 3 terms, for example, and then and who can address local concerns, who knows what's going on at international level, who knows about national laws, and the party drops him. I mean, what on earth is that? I mean, what if that happens? Like, what if that happens? So sometimes if we say like, we would want these election candidates to do this, that, but the party matters too. If the parties make wrong decisions, then unfortunately, the pool of very able parliamentarians will become smaller. And then the other part that I have a great concern too is beyond having ample knowledge and education as a lawmaker, as a political party, in this country, I think there is less process being focused on how to make the parliamentary system better. For example, we need more town hall sessions. You need more funds for parliamentarians, even if they are very, very efficient. If they don't have resources to hire people to do research, to do survey in order to understand the many issues and what they're supposed to do, which is to hold the executive accountable, then no matter how they wish to do the job well, they may be not be able to do so efficiently because of the lack of resources. And I think also I would like to see political parties and candidates to understand that this is about lawmaking. Yes, there is electoral politics, but there is the parliament, and there is the government, and there is the community, and there is the country. So electoral politics, we know sometimes you have to turn up in some morning events, do your take pictures, looking pretty, looking handsome, put it on social media. And I get very concerned when I see lawmakers whose social media accounts are only about that majority. I would like to see them analyzing, having proposal, talking about things that matter, whether it's state or federal. That is what a lawmaker is supposed to do. I mean, where are your pool of people, of your researchers, and I understand that they don't have a lot of resources and time. And I think the system needs to be revamped. And this is an important institution, the legislature, the parliament. If that is not well equipped, our parliamentarians, no matter what they commit to, sometimes they can't do their job efficiently because they don't have sufficient resources to really look at the laws and the proposals and the system, when they arrive, and to go back to the constituency and to say, like, these amendments are coming, and if we don't have an efficient system for that, then I have sympathy for a lot of our great parliamentarians who really struggle to meet all these shortcomings within the system. So I think we shouldn't just ask questions on what we want election candidates to do, but how in the end the system and how our parliamentarians can be made to support them to do the jobs well, which is to hold the executive accountable. That's also an important question. Thank you.
Excellent contribution from Shamila. Indeed, we do need a system revamp, especially the parliamentary system, and also the political party mindset, right? The school of thoughts about what is needed today, and asking, probably election candidates who could step up to that challenge will be actually a real challenge in itself, because if they are the only one who's championing the issue while the whole political party is not with them, it is not going to happen. And thanks for being real about it, that we cannot just rely on this one person or a group of people, because they will get ousted. As we can see, we have been have the preview to see all the released candidates, and we are quite disappointed in some of the dropouts. And we really don't know where the direction of the parliamentary system is heading if we continue on a business as usual course. And where the climate crisis is concerned, it is a collision course. And there's no dramatization in this, because when we call it climate crisis, we mean that time is running out for real solutions and for people to step up. So I will quickly take two questions from our audience today. The first one is from Simon. This question is to Henry. He would like to ask which MPs in Sarawak that have been approached to promote bamboo, and which parties have been promoting bamboo in their manifesto. And Johnek, you're muted for now.
To be honest, not a single MP is interested in Sarawak. I have to be very honest. Yes, they talk a lot. The ministry talk a lot. The ministry, Department of Natural Resources, and STIDC is actually doing a lot, many things. But I think actually my whole slide was directed to them, and I presented to them at the National Steering Committee and the State Bamboo Industry Blueprint in 2017. But no one is listening. And now we are coming up to a crisis level, and they are looking into bamboo, but they are looking in the wrong direction. They are intending to commercialize bamboo towards bamboo as a substitute for lumber, which is actually you are mimicking what other people are doing, and that is not, to me, that is not the best way of doing it. Why don't we focus on something which the community already knew? For example, focus on biochar, focus on bamboo fiber. Biochar can be used as at an industrial scale to ameliorate or remediate soil, right? And it can improve our local soil instead of using all the synthetic baja or fertilizers. And it can goes with the organic material. It can improve vastly the carrying capacity of our natural soil, and it can improve, even remediate even the destroyed soil by the estate. But nobody is listening. They knew we have the technology. They knew it, but that is not they are looking. That is not what they are looking at. Sadly to say, to answer that question, nobody is interested. Even the ministry is blunt. They're stunted. That's the situation now, and it's very sad. We have a Malaysian Bamboo Society, and we have a National Bamboo Movement, but we are now quiet by ourselves. We do our own thing because the government is not listening. That I have to say that. But the result is crisis is now we are at a crisis level. Something will knock their head. Some will knock their head very, very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnek. And I'd like to take another question from Mary. What more can NGOs in Sarawak do to ensure if there's political will in promoting sustainability? Either one of the panel speaker who feels compelled to answer this, you may feel free to do so.
I would like to take that question
Yes, please.
as the chairman of the CSO Alliance, interim chairman of the CSO Alliance Sarawak. We are trying to form a chapter for Sarawak to counterbalance the national CSO Alliance under the All Party Parliamentary Group movement, which was created in 2019. And Sabah is also initiating their own, what they call it, CSO Alliance for Sabah. We have another alliance, they call it a CSO for Reform, but this one is a CSO Alliance for SDG, right? What we need now, I think, I have to be very blunt, the nation is sinking. The nation is sinking. And the only two states that can rescue this nation from sinking without ability to upload is Sabah and Sarawak. And we have the upper hand. Now, the nation administration and executive and the parliament is dissolved. Actually, if you are looking at it, it's very chaotic. Only the CSO or the CSO alliance now can keep the nation fabric alive. That's what I can say. And what can you do? Yes, we need to unite. We need to come together. We need to have our voice. We need to shout out. We need to show ourselves. And this forum is very, very interesting, but so few are listening. Thank you. We need to unite.
Thank you, Johnek. Indeed, we will have people can rewatch this webinar because it's a Saturday and it's sort of like in between lunch and where people are out. But thankfully for technology, we have it on Aliran's Facebook page and also Aliran Kesedaran Negara's YouTube channel as well for rewatch. If any of the panel speaker is compelled to also add to that question, please feel free to address it. The question is, of course, what can NGOs in Sarawak do in terms of political will in promoting sustainability? Because I think what Shamila said earlier about if it's an issue that's outside of, so to speak, Klang Valley or KL, it doesn't really get picked up as a national issue. But the issues in Sabah Sarawak is nonetheless very large scale and important as well. So perhaps it's something, a question about how to raise the visibility of these issues and whether we can get more allies together. Are there any ways that when people are listening in that they could be part of this?
I think, can I come in, Evelyn?
Yes.
Yeah. What I mean, what WhatsApp Rivers is doing at the moment is we work together with other NGOs, yeah? Because you cannot be so, what shall I say, regional and trying to isolate yourself from the rest of the country. Because a lot of these issues, we are now focusing on Sarawak. But nonetheless, if you look at it from the perspective of the people who are living in these rural areas, be it in Semenanjung or in Sabah, we are facing a lot of the same issues with regard to land dispute and all these other things. And of course, the pollutions of the rivers and destruction of the environment and all that. So what we are doing is we work together as well with a group of people from Semenanjung. We call themselves Beach. This is focusing on the environment and then of course the indigenous rights and all that. And we work together with a lot of with other NGOs in Sabah as well. For example, we work with Pakos Trust. We work with in the Green Empowerment and Tony Boom and all that. And of course, we don't limit ourselves, like what I said, not only in Malaysia, but we connect with other NGOs from outside as well. That is the beauty of being a small NGO like ours. We have more flexibility. I can see Shamila smiling there because I don't know where you have a lot of constraint, I would think, being a big NGO, international NGO. So I don't know whether you can do this side like what we do. So we're quite flexible. And then we in doing that, we get the advantage of the skills and or the other connection that the other NGOs have as well. So that is one thing that we have to be open to work with other people. But of course, the government doesn't like it. One time before, one of our trainers from Semenanjung, we brought him in to do paralegal training. He was told to go back at the airport there. The Sarawak government, they have the what they call the authority of immigrations and all that. So they label him as a, I don't know what they call him. I don't know why or not, what ground they asked him to go home. And the poor guy had to go back from Miri Airport to go back to KL. So I find that very strange because these people are not communists. They don't come here and destroy the government or whatever, but they're trying to support the people who need a lot of support. The grassroots are being victimized. These are the people that support them. And in this particular case, he was coming in because at that time we were fighting against the dam and some of us were fighting against logging and some of us were arrested by the police and all that. So what the guy did was to come and tell us, to give us training, what are the laws whereby the police can arrest you, what do you want to say, and all this other stuff so that you don't get bullied. Because that is not something that is not normal. NGOs get bullied a lot of times by the police, by the forest department, and a lot of other people, by the YB as well. They put all sorts of things against us. We had one YB before we were fighting against the dam. So they removed the allocation for the road to the proposed site of the Baram Dam to go to another dam that is in Baleh. So the Baram people complained, why don't you use the money to build a road? And then he said to us, no road, no dam, no roads, he said. So that is a type of thing. So don't tell me that you only focus on the dam, that's why you build the road. How is it that you're able to assess the timber and all this oil palm plantation in the right ulu of Baram using heli logging and all that, and there is no constraint in doing that, but you neglect the people. So these are the type of YB we have. We are worse than being colonized by the foreign power. We are colonized not by West Malaysian, by our own people.
Thank you, Peter. And maybe Shamila, would you like to weigh in on this?
I do not know. Peter, we're not a big NGO, we're small too. I well, I can't really answer the question. I mean, it's more like what we need to what we need to be better, you know. I feel that's how the conversation should go, because with limited resources and limited space in the media, and also limited, let's say, technical support, sometimes I'm also wondering, and how is it that civil society can make issues more visible? Is there a way, you know, that how you communicate, how you write about things in the media, in your social media account, that perhaps there is a way of packaging in a way that can attract more attention? So sometimes I do think about those sort of challenges too, and how to be better at it.
Thanks, Shamila. There's one question that just came in from Harrison Ngao. I'll read it out for our audience. The politicians surely are aware of our climate crisis problems or issues, because, for example, we have floods happening right in their constituencies every year, which is worsening, and issues of land conflicts between the native communities and the logging and plantation companies had been raging on for years until now, and widely reported in the media. So do you think one of the problems is the conflict of interest of the politicians involved? Any of our speakers would like to jump in on this? It's a very, good question.
Who's gonna go first?
Anybody answering?
I
Actually,
can.
basically, it's greed. People or those people are greedy. They are looking for short-term measure to fill up their pocket. I have to be very blunt, but that's the reality that we are facing from day one up to now. And nobody is really being very honest and being humble, right? If you ask those politicians personally, they don't even remember where they come from. When they were elected, they went to town, they forget about their longhouse, their village. Okay, that is to answer Harrison question.
Thank you, Shamila.
Yeah, but I really like what Shamila say regarding, you know, a way, looking for a way to look at this thing. Actually, there is a way. We have all the tools, we have all the technology now in our fingertips. The thing is, we got to be very selective to use it, and we can. All you got to do now is use those tools and empower the people. Politicians get their power from the people. The ministry, the government get their power from the politician, right? And actually, the people are the source of that power. All you got to do is now influence or reset with all the tools and the technology that we have. Let us learn and start reset the community thinking. And we can do that if we read more about in social science. Is there a way to do it very fast? Critical thinking reset. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe I'll chip in, Evelyn, if it's okay.
Yeah, and then I'll go to Shamila. Thanks.
Okay. So I think one of the very important thing that we have to look at, if the next government come in, be it at the national or the state level, and I don't have any, I'm not optimistic at all as far as that level is concerned, is looking at political funding funding of elections and all. This is a big question mark. This is one area that is problematic, I think, with regard to political parties. Yeah. So I don't want to go further. You can imagine what happened. Yeah, but that is not limited to the politician alone. Yeah, it's not limited to the politician alone. What the timber company and logging people are doing is this: when they operate in a certain area, the village headman and the community chief are being given allowances by the company on the sometime, I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're even given monthly basis. So these are the people who are looking after the interests of the logging company. That's why I was saying to you earlier on that we have challenges from within the community themselves. A lot of these challenges are from the village headman and all that. They are the one who support the logging activities there. In a certain village, in my area as well, I have found out that the community headman and all that, they decided to buy a bulldozer, and they use the bulldozer, they do the logging themselves and sell the log to the company in the area. So this is really sad because what they're doing is they're killing their own people. They're just like the probable story about this goose that laid the golden egg. They're trying to get as much as possible without thinking about the future, about their children, the grandchildren, and the community themselves. They're depriving themselves. So these two areas, I think I have not, because Harrison is no stranger to this area. He's a land right lawyer. He has defended a lot of people on the ground. So I'm sure that he's trying to hint in that area. And I believe this is something that is true. I've heard of people who have been working in the timber company themselves who come to us and say that what happened during election time and all that. So that's why I don't rule out any possibilities of politicians having a conflict of interest.
But yeah, I totally agree, Peter. And indeed, it is the elephant in the room, exactly, when we talk about any issues that we want to solve, with regards to public commons and well-being. There is an element of corruption, and or rather in Malay we call it pecah mandat and things like that. Shamila, would you like to weigh in on this question?
Thank you, Evelyn. Yeah, the question is interesting because the question is asked on politicians. Are they is there like the conflict of interest of the politicians involved? Now, there are politicians, and then there are political parties. So I am more interested in political parties than individual politicians, because and also the political culture generally in this country. So there is, like if it's just like the question is the flooding in Sarawak, which is a consequence of unsustainable development of indiscriminate logging in the past, and then forest conversion and all that. And this is not just happening in this country; it's happening all over the world. Yeah, it's part of the the international movement of capturing commons into private hands. But then my question, like to Harrison, is again now, what if there is a politician somewhere in this country who had done quite well in addressing flooding in his local constituency, which are badly affected maybe last year, and also have knowledge about the climate crisis and where we should be heading in protecting not just his constituency but the country plans and policies. And again, like if we've got politicians like that and then they are not fielded, dropped by the political party. So there is this question of conflict of interest, and then there is also the political culture, the whole direction of electoral politics in this country. I wonder sometimes, like whether the political culture like really promotes it, you know, when you join political parties and you want that power is about lawmaking. You're not the municipal council, you're not the welfare department. This is not a modeling contest. There are people for that, proper, beautiful people. Okay, you know, just look good like that. Not saying they're not beautiful, anything like that, but sometimes it's unbelievable. So there is a question, you asked the question, is it the conflict of interest, right? But this country has also produced a lot of great politicians, statespeople, I would say. And sometimes their fate or their destiny within the party, within the cabinet, does not end so well. And this is not just in this country, but in the world. If you think about any profession in the world, okay, let's say medicine, you know, given class, given gender, given ethnicity, or whatever your background, when you say somebody is the top of the profession, the top surgeon in the country, in the state, usually that person is really the top surgeon, really the highest. It is only in politics where the person who is at the top can be sometimes not the most skillful, not the most not the best. It's only in politics. You go to every profession in the world and you meet, this is the best, this is the top, this is the leader. And usually, bearing all the other circumstances, usually they are that skillful, that person, that credible person. But in politics, sometimes people ask like, how is it that we get to this, right? So then it means that there is like a system that promotes, allows people that perhaps are not best suited for the job, you know, to do that. And these are the people making decisions about our lives, about you know, your taxes, about your medical, about, so what, you know, about everything, about education. And it sometimes really frightens me to see that. And it's not just not in this country. Yeah, and so I wish to see like the best of people in the political parties to rise, you know, as leaders, and to rise later in government. And they are the ones who with the knowledge, with the information, and with the humility and the compassion to lead us, you know, to be with the community. So yeah, there is a conflict of interest, and then there is a system that allows that to happen. And I am very interested to know how we can remedy the situation, make sure that people who are who have the skill and the passion, the compassion to lead.
Thank you, Shamila. And as you were speaking, it brings to mind that, you know, that very old adage where people say people deserve their government. You know, we deserve better. And let's start with that. You know, it starts with us calling for a higher standard, accountability and transparency in whichever way possible. If it requires systemic structural change, I think we need to start working on that already. There's no better time. And I think the younger generation that's coming up today are also more aware, and they're also more proactive compared to the generations past, who are a bit not very that finds the political scene not palatable. But I think there are, you know, potential for young leadership to step in, and also the people who have been in there, who are doing lots of great work, to be recognized and, you know, be given the position that they need to do the work that they are doing. And as you said, it's quite baffling that we place so much importance on, you know, who we elect to be the CEO of a company, with more care than we do for leaders of a country. And there's just the direction of the country is going towards, and it's quite worrying. With the interest of time, I would like to ask the panelists to sort of give like 2-3 statements of a closing for the audience today in regards to, you know, equitable, sustainable development and climate crisis. And then after that, I would like to request for the participants to kindly turn on your video if possible, so that the technical team could help us take a group photo. Maybe I could start with Johnek, just like very quick, brief closing statement from you. Thank you.
I don't know what to say. What I did mention earlier on is we are now at the stage that we are sinking so bad, we may be unable to keep ourselves afloat. But with that to say, what I'm trying to impart to you, everybody who are listening now, and also when they replay this video, the thing is, the power is in our hand, right? Whatever you do it, all the rest will be following. So do not ask for what other people can do. Ask what you can do.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Jonette, one more thing, and I'll ask this with the other speakers as well. One unsustainable mega development or project in Malaysia that you think should be stopped?
I would follow what Shamila was saying. We need to revamp the system. The whole system needs to be reset. There are too much rotten egg around. It's beyond recovery at the moment. That's the way I see it as a NGO alliance chairman. It's so sad, but there's a way to do it, and it is slowly moving. But do not be overwhelmed by sadness. The world is not going to end tomorrow. There is a way to do it, and now that the nation is open, there is no government. That's why I say the power is in our hand, particularly to young generation as bright as you. For people like us, like Peter, I think we are now waiting to go home, right? So we rest the shoulders on you. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnek. I guess it's quite flattering that you put me in the young generation, which well I'm not, but thank you. I would like to go to Shamila since I've always approached her last, but I would like her to go first before Peter, if that's okay.
What was the question? You want me to sum?
Closing statement and like just one unsustainable mega development that you would like to see scrapped.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I disagree a little bit with John is saying that like, we are really sinking and all that. I have great hope that things will be better. They will, because there is no chance, because it's human nature. Any unsustainable, any repressive systems will be fought, and at some point the poor system will sink. A better system will come. But whether it's going to be on a lifetime or not, that's another question. The question, it will happen, things will be better. Humans will prevail with a better system to live in harmony with the earth and the whole members of this planet. But when that's going to happen, I do not know. And what unsustainable only one, Evelyn?
Yeah, if you have to choose one.
Oh God.
I know.
That's
The
so
organizers would
difficult.
like me to ask this, so I would have
Only
given you
one.
5.
Well, in Penang, we're in Penang. I mean, have you seen anything? I think there's one in Penang, south of the island, that really shouldn't happen at the time of a climate crisis. It's not clever at all. It's not wise, and I cannot imagine 100 years from now when that generation look back to us and would ask like, what were you thinking? Not just about that, but also other stuff, in Sarawak, large dams, really. And I think like how we look at colonization, we look back at the racism in the past, how blatant, not that it doesn't exist now, that sort of thing, or how people used to treat women, minorities, and we would think like, how could this be allowed? Like, what were you guys thinking? But I think 100 years from now, that generation or 200, they will look at us and say like, why couldn't you see it? Like, what was wrong with us as the generation? That would happen. But that also implied that I believe that things will get better. We will find a way, with perseverance, with help, and spiritual direction. Yeah, but let's hope we live long enough to see that.
Thank you, Shamila. And finally, Peter.
Yeah, thank you very much, Evelyn. I think if I get it right, there are two parts of your question, right? One is what are the mega project that I want stop. The other one is what do you want next YB to do or something like that. Was it? I mean, that is what I add into anyway. What I like to see is I think Shamila touch on it because the Sarawak government is still looking at building hydroelectric dams that they will use to power not only Sarawak but also to build grids to our neighboring country, that is Kalimantan, Indonesia, because of the shift of the Indonesian capital to Borneo now. I would like to see that stop all hydroelectric dam that causes people to be displaced, and then of course focus on green energy but not hydroelectric dam. Focus on green energy that will be small island. I'm talking about small island grid. Now, because we have a lot of in the upper part of the Baram area, for example, the same thing in Rajang and Tinja and all that. We have a lot of what we call this places where it's potential where we can build micro hydro, for example, and we can build micro hydro by hydro, and which is connected also to the solar system, and then this will be an island grid for all these places. So in doing that, you will generate more job for the people, local technicians and all that, and of course it will provide a lot of skill. And then whereas what they are trying to do now, they're going to build all these big dams that will have a lot of grid system that will cut the forest and all this other thing, cut down on those things, build island grid, and then train technicians locally, provide jobs for people. I would like to see that happen. And of course, the coal mining that is going on in the middle of Sarawak now, in the Balangian area and all that, we are still having a coal power plant, stop all that. And then we try to plant more trees for carbon capture, sort of thing. And then my last word is, our YB that is going to be elected, whoever you are, whichever party you come from, I would like to see that you focus on industrial innovation, which is classified as in SDG, and infrastructure, so that the people are provided with alternative livelihood as well, and try to improve their life in the rural area, so that we don't have these big migrations to the urban area. No, what we found out during the lockdown, during the pandemic, we found out a lot of our people, even in Sarawak here, who are affected by the lockdown, well, the rural urban migrant, because some of them were school bus drivers, some of them were all this type of jobs they didn't have any what they call employment during the lockdown. And we found out the people in the rural area, they are more resilient than the people in town, because they can provide for themselves, they can go fishing, they can plant the vegetable and all that. So that is what we want. We would like to see the government do industries that allow them to improve this, and then try to eliminate poverty, both in the urban and rural area. We are getting more and more migration to the urban area now. We have a lot of squatters around towns and cities in Sarawak, increasing, and decent work and economic growth. That is what I would like to see the government focus on. Stop politicking.
Thank you, Peter. Excellent closing. And thank you for giving real life examples of how, to materialize what we mean by equitable, sustainable in development and climate crisis, because we need to move beyond the talks on rhetorics. And we already have solutions that political parties and even ideas on how to restructure and make the parliamentary system more effective, which have a wide implication of how the nation works. And thank you so much to every one of the speakers who have contributed their valuable insights and experiences on their work and the challenges that they face, and the wonderful participants for all the questions asked. So I thank you all for turning on your video, and I think we're ready to take a group photo. May I request for the tech team to help us out here?
Yeah, taken.
Already taken.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. All right, you get to tell people, otherwise they don't know when to smile. Can you please take it again? Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Oh, Anil. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Let me
Anil just
check.
came in.
Thank you.
Let me check first. If I capture it. Yes, got it.
You
Thank
share it
you.
in the group. Share it
Yeah,
in the
sure.
group.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for spending your Saturday afternoon with us. And if you enjoyed this talk, please share the link with your colleagues or friends or your family circle and get conversations going. Some of you may likely, be blessed with a visit from an MP or something, a general election candidate. So talk to them about issues like this, real issues, and we do not sideline bread and butter issues, but these sustainable development issues are bread and butter issues in a different context. So thank you again, everyone, and have a nice day. Right? Take care. Bye-bye.